are we?
No, not really. I don't have anything going on necessarily
Okay,
out of the
I think
ordinary.
we're live. Wait a second. Yeah, yeah. It says in broadcast, so that's the next button to
Oh
push.
yeah, we're live.
Okay.
I don't have my iPad, so I can't see any comments. So you'll have to be the master of the comments, which you are usually anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the only one that can stick them and do things to them, so that'll be good. If anybody shows up, which we'll just carry right along like we've got a great mass audience.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many people watch after the fact. My sorry, I'm adjusting my camera. My YouTube has gotten a lot of comments lately. I think
Really?
I've got about 500 subscribers.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not
It's
bad.
about twice as many as I've got on this channel.
Oh yeah, we're on the wrong channel
My
then.
other
No.
channel's got the necessary 1,000, but I've got so much copy strike material on it that there's
Yeah,
no point in even thinking about it being monetized for anything.
no, you should monetize. Oh, so what if you monetize it and it gets struck? Who cares?
Yeah.
Make the dough. Make them pay, Ellis.
Well, I don't think
So
they even. I don't know. I'd have to check on that. Yeah, you're right. I could look into that. I guess.
why not, man? You might make a couple bucks. I mean, uh, so I had this sketchbook. Did I show you this sketchbook last week? I don't know how long I've had it. I've been
Uh,
obsessed with buying old art supplies off of eBay. And
cool.
literally, this is like a sketchbook from the 70s. It's brand new. It's not brand new, but it's it's kind of beat up, but it's complete. Somebody wrote their name on it, and that's it. It's a little dinged up. Not bad. Anyway, because I'm obsessed with the idea that old sketchbooks and stuff have better quality, and
Yeah. Well, yeah. They don't build anything like they used to. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, and sketchbooks are definitely one of those things. And so and art supplies have gotten so expensive that I can buy something like this 11 by 14 sketchbook with 100 pages would probably cost me $20 anyway, and I got this for around that, maybe a little bit more. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it, but it's like and it's a little bit different, and it's not something I'll make a habit of doing, but anymore you can't find art supplies. There's no place in this city to buy art supplies hardly, unless you want to go to a chain store like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. But even like when last time we went to New York City, the art supply places have dwindled to the point where it's like,
I can
you
imagine.
know,
Well, and of course,
Dick
I guess
Blick
the
kills
main
them all.
culprit is digital. Yeah.
Well, no, 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 Dick Blick, man.
Oh yeah, sure.
I mean, digital. Don't get me wrong. Digital killed the need, the professional need. Back in the day, like my degree is in commercial art, and
Hmm.
so what I was really trying to do is to do like work at a place that either like a printing shop or something that needs an artist that can do like paste up, which is something nobody even knows what that is
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
Do paste up and do like different typographical type things, in
Hmm.
terms of like setting, not setting type, but
Typography. Yeah. Yeah.
not
Sure.
well, not typography, but God, I forget what they called it, where you had to figure out basically
Kerning and
specking, well, specking
kerning.
type,
Yeah. Yeah.
specking
Specking
type,
type.
where you had to look at it and figure out what size, what size type you to use. Because back in the day, if you needed text, you had to order it from
Hmm.
somebody because you didn't have the
Hmm.
ability to make it yourself unless you drew it or had press on letters, which that was a big thing, or different machinery to do it, but nothing like computerized. And even in my current job, when I first started, when we needed text, we sent to the typesetting department, and you would fill out a form with what you needed it to say and the size you needed it, and you get it back in 2 days, and it'd be on strip, and you had to cut it out and paste it down. So that's what I was trained to do, and then like on top of that, like spot illustration, and some
Hmm.
just really, and that's not really even desktop publishing eliminated all that. I mean,
Yep.
like within 5 or 10 years of my graduation, that stuff all went away.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It was. I
and,
was a layout artist while all that stuff was burgeoning in, and I had a temporary job after that where I was working for one of these. Before I moved to Dallas, I was working for, what do you call those little rags that the name Thrift is in it?
oh,
Uh,
like the penny saver.
yeah, Penny Saver. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly it.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
worked for a
when I,
penny saver at one point, and it's like, okay, that was just starting to come in.
yeah,
God, God, I hadn't
I,
thought of that job in years. All of a sudden, it came to me. Yeah, yeah. I remember when all that was happening. That was when I worked for the penny saver.
well,
Man,
it's funny you say that. But so I don't know. Have I told you that about me losing 2 jobs in one day?
uh-uh.
Oh
I've
God,
almost done that.
I've
I've
done it.
had them come pretty close together. Yeah.
Okay. So in '87 in June or July of '87, I started college. Got married in August. Worked at a car lot through all of seven. Let's see, all of '87 through '87 into '88, and we're still and I was going to night school. I started going to a place called Platt College that taught commercial art basically,
Hmm.
and and I mean literally it was a deal like when I graduated they were like, well, you could like, and some of the places you could apply it was like hospitals. All hospitals have a printing shop and they'll need artists, I mean, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Anyway, so
I knew a guy that worked for his happy after I got done with our job at Yellow Pages with Mike. He worked at a place that was involved in pumps and everything that had a printing shop.
oh yeah, yeah. There's a
Little
place.
Giant, Little Giant.
Oh my gosh, David Nelson worked at Little Giant.
He may know Mike Wheeler.
Oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know if he does, but that'd be crazy if he did.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
Mike Wheeler's been dead apparently a fairly long time, but he may have worked with him. I don't know. Or
that
he may have
is
replaced him. I don't know.
Well, no, no, no. Dave didn't do art there. He put pumps together.
Oh, wow. Huh.
What's funny is he was probably qualified to work in their art department. But
Hmm.
anyway, so I at sometime in late '88, before Thanksgiving, but sometime between Memorial Day and Thanksgiving. Wait, Labor Day. Between Labor Day, sometime that late late fall, early winter. I think it was right before Thanksgiving. I got a job through the school. I got a job working at a place called Oklahoma Sports Weekly, and it was a newspaper.
Hmm.
And I was laying out ads, and they had a computer. They had a Mac. They had a couple Macintoshes there,
Hmm.
and they taught me how to use the Macintosh. And what we do is we would do type and stuff on the Macintosh and then print it out. And then we had big boards like newspapers have. We paste it up on the board. So we were doing
Hmm.
paste up, but we were getting our text and stuff
Uh-huh.
from the Macintosh. And we were doing spot illustrations
Was that
when we
about
could. And
95 or something?
no, no, no. This was '88.
Okay.
And one day I went and I was drill. So I would deliver auto parts all day. On Monday and Tuesday, I would go to school, and then at night from I think it's 6 to 9, and then Wednesday and Thursday and maybe Friday. It seemed like I was doing something on Friday. I would work at the newspaper, and the newspaper guy was happy to work along with my schedule. But I mean, there were nights on those nights where I'd be up there to 2 o'clock in the morning,
Hmm.
get up the next morning, go to work. And about the time I graduated, I went into work one day at the car lot, and everyone was looking at me funny.
Oh, boy.
And I go, and somebody goes, "Have you?" And I was just went and picked up got my part, pulled my parts, and started to get my deliveries ready, and somebody goes, "Have you talked to the parts manager?" And I go, "No." And they go, "Did he talk to you Friday?" "No, I left early Friday." "Well, you need to go talk to him." And I said,
Oh,
"Okay." Well, yeah, now I didn't think anything of it. I thought nothing of it. I went to him and he basically said, "Well, the it was a dealership that was owned by a father, and he basically his son was buying him out, and his son's first thing was, we're gonna get, because we had like 4 parts delivery guys.
mm-hmm,
He's like, we're getting rid of the parts delivery guys. We got too many of them. They
mm-hmm,
kept one. There was like an older guy. I say older, he's probably 23, but there's an older guy
mm-hmm.
that's pretty much what he did. And my boss was like, you're in school, you're gonna do something else.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, I was out of school like that was right when I graduated. And so I went home and I told Michelle, and I said, I'm going to go to the paper and see if I can get more hours, because he's always kind of saying, if you could work more, that'd be great. I knew the other people, the other guy, the other artist worked on the 2 days I was in school. So I went up to the paper and I said, hey,
Just lost my other job.
told him the thing. And he looked at me and he goes, he said, I was just writing a letter to all the employees. He goes, I hate to hear that, because I was just writing a letter to all the employees. I'm about to shut down the paper. And his wife had gotten sick and she sold all the advertising,
Mm-hmm.
and he could not afford to replace her,
Yeah, yeah. You can't pay people when you have no money. You know.
Right. Anyway, so it's like, you know, but I mean, a couple weeks later, I had my current job. I mean, the job I'm at still. So I mean, it all worked
Wow.
out. But yeah,
That never fails to blow my mind how long you've worked in the same place. It's not common
no, no,
to
no. Even
to
yeah,
get
no, no,
that
no. Even
long of a stretch out of a job.
especially like when you're like, I'm an artist, and
Hmm.
I mean, I really feel. I mean, no offense to anybody, but I mean, art jobs are not super common in this area.
Oh no, no, there's nothing here. That's the reason I was bound for Dallas after I got done with that Yellow Page job. Or
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah,
unless you work in an advertising agent, I don't think there's that many of them here. Even
no, no.
it's just not that kind of a city. I mean, I know a lot of artists, but they also a lot of them do other
Yeah,
stuff.
they can't figure out what to do.
Yeah,
Well, then there's no reason not to be able to make a living with some other thing you attach yourself to, but that networking that is
yeah.
so important typically uh, for getting jobs, just, it's hard to come by with uh,
Oh, yeah. Well, and I've never been,
in this
because
kind of market.
my work is so odd, because really what I am, I mean, the closest thing to describe what I do would be a product designer,
Hmm.
you know, and I do a little bit of everything. I mean, and now I'm like, well, I manage people really more than
Hmm.
anything else. But which, by the way, supposedly I'm getting my I don't know if we can talk about this on the show, but we will. I told you I'm getting a promotion.
Uh huh.
Well, supposedly tomorrow is the big meeting with all the people that are now gonna. I don't know how it's gonna play out. No one has given me a.
Oh, that'll be a big shock to some people.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I will be promoted over people that outrank me in terms
Ah.
of the corporate structure of what
Hmm.
they do and what their titles are and what my title. Yeah, I mean the the my promotion. I'm trying to think. I was trying to think about this morning. My promotion. I'll go from a crew leader, which is like usually over a group of like 5 or 6 people, to a
Hmm.
unit leader, which is multiple crews. Um, and I don't know how many people might have under me. It could be as few as 15, and it could be as many as 30. I don't know how they're going to handle that exactly. Uh, I don't know if it's going to be a fast rollout or a slow rollout, but uh, but ultimately I'll be over all those people. But like crew leaders, there's probably, I mean, every department has one, so there may be like in a company of 350, there's probably 20, but unit leaders, there's probably, half a dozen, maybe, you know.
Have you ever, well, that's big news. Are you feeling stress at all that coming up?
Nah, no,
That's cool.
no. I got so much other stuff to be stressed out that I don't. I mean, because
Can't waste time
I've
on that.
talked. Yeah, I mean, I've got the thing. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not a. I don't know. Uh, anyway, so also we should talk about my comic.
Okay.
Or not my comic, the comic. So 2 weeks ago, I was working on a comic on a page for a tryout. I don't have the job yet, but this morning I sent Ellis overnight. I got an email from the writer, and so mine's been in. I've turned mine in the Monday after New Year's. I think was that Monday. Has it been that recent, or was it maybe it was Monday after Christmas? No, it was the Monday after New Year's or after Christmas. I turned in my tryout,
Hmm.
and they told me, "Well, we got a few more weeks because you're the first one to turn yours in, and I really like it, but the inker is the one who has to decide, and he's going to look at it and see if it's if it works with his style of inking, or if, just they just does he like it? He's the one who has to
Hmm.
ink it, but the writer really liked it, and
Cool.
yeah, they paid me, and I got about oh between 3 and 4 hours in that page. So I don't feel too. I mean, I'm not making it. I mean, I make less money doing that than I do at my day job, but it's extra money, which is always nice. I mean, if I get the gig on the book, I'll be making like every month. I'll be making $1,400. Have you heard
Uh,
about all the drama?
yeah. Have you heard about all the drama? Oh, how did you see that? I thought you couldn't monitor this.
Oh, well, I'm watching on my phone. I
Oh,
mean, on my TV up there.
oh, cool. And then we got another one that says he'd like to hear a timeline of my art career.
Oh, I would
This
too.
this is the fellow that
Ellis is.
does his YouTube channel. I was expecting I don't know what I was expecting, but it's kind of sardine centric. he and
Sardine
his
centric?
yeah,
Huh, I don't know
he and
about
his
that.
brother like to sample sardines from around the world. I don't know. But anyway,
Okay. Hey,
no, it's
whatever.
pretty interesting. No, he's a really good artist too. He's oh, that makes me think about the Babylon Bee. Did you ever listen to that podcast
Oh, no, I didn't. I pulled it.
where
I haven't.
Ethan was on explaining about? Have you heard about the drama? I wonder if that is referring to the drama of the Babylon Bee and
With your buddy.
with Ethan, Nicole, and that stuff. I wouldn't call Ethan my buddy, but I have been
Oh,
in this
yeah.
a group with him and everything like that. He flamed me so hard one time when I wrote him a random, maybe too easily publicly displayed
Critique.
thing on Twitter. Uh, it's like, well, geez, do I even know this person? He acted like I was, just a complete idiot for asking him. Oh, that's the deal, though. See, that's the thing. You think these guys are having some sort of great party time at the B, and it's actually the way it actually is, which is, you're about to be laid off and don't know it on Christmas. And
Oh, yeah.
God,
I am involved obliquely with some very similar drama that I can't go into any
okay,
details, but it's
okay,
like it struck me from nowhere, and unfortunately, because I have to be directly involved in this, not through my office,
mm-hmm.
but it's like, and it literally is like you want to fire somebody, you told someone you weren't going to renew their contract the week of Christmas. What kind of evil person are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's not a money thing. If it's a money thing, I get it. Money things
It's
happen.
just it's typically a quarterly thing. It's like, okay, get rid of him now. There's no reason for him to overlap into the next quarter. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's the end of the year kind of
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, this situation I'm talking about is caused literally by a contract elapsing. Has to, but it's just like crappy timing, you know.
Yeah, been a few weeks. Happy New Year, guys. Ellis left the air conditioner on outside, by the way. Yeah,
Yeah, he did, and he left the door open.
I actually,
Are you
and I
staying
rarely
warm?
do this, but I just wasn't dressed well enough for getting out in it
Oh
today,
God.
and I said, nah, I'm not going to get the way I'm
Oh
dressed. I'm not going
dude.
to get in the wind like that.
Oh, it was today was dangerously cold.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty.
So normally at lunchtime I'll sit in my car and draw
Hmm.
because I generally don't eat lunch. I do occasionally, but generally I don't eat lunch. And so I'll take my sketchbook or I'll take a comic book or a book or something, and I can take, I can take between 30 minutes to an hour, and I'll sit in my car, and even when it's fairly cold outside, if it's sunny, you get enough radiant heat. But
Hmm.
man, today is like I'm sitting in the break room, which I hate
Yeah,
because
yeah, you
half the
don't
time
like.
I'll take a nap, and I don't,
Yeah,
and plus people come up and oh Scott, we need to talk about this order, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm off the clock, man, you
yeah.
know, uh, you know.
So,
I mean, and people mean well. They just come up to me and talk to me, and hey, what are you drawing? And I'm like, I'm drawing comic book stuff. And I mean, you get three people come by and talk to you, and like, dude, my whole lunch was
yeah,
talking,
I
not
show you. I
drawing.
shot my lunch talking to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
so I try and not do that. But
Hmm.
anyway, so what's a timeline? Well, are we going to talk about the drama or the timeline of Ellis's meteoric
Oh,
career?
I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. It's well, I told you I did that video. Maybe this is prompted by that video I did on Corbin, which would have been
Oh yeah.
one of my first jobs outside of college. Of course, I did all the usual stuff before college, and none of them were art related. It was Brahms ice cream and
Oh yeah.
crap like that. Shoe salesman. Uh,
You were a shoe salesman?
yeah, I was a shoe salesman. Oh my
That's
God.
funny.
And I worked at C.R. Anthony's. You remember C.R. Anthony's?
Oh yeah. Dude, I have a leather jacket still I bought at Sierra Anthony's. It's
Cool.
my
I
favorite
bet
coat.
it's a good one. We used to have
Oh, dude,
those leather
it's
jacket should
great.
last you for life. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's kind of this brown color, and it's not smooth. It's not suede, but it's kind of a rough
Hmm.
texture. And I was kind of tired of it, and I was like, I need to pitch this. And so
Nah.
one year I said, I'm gonna go buy me a leather jacket. And we were going to
Hmm.
New York, and I looked everywhere in New York. And first off, any real leather jacket was like over $500,
Exactly.
and I didn't
Yeah.
like them. They were
Hmm.
either dressy looking or motorcycle gang looking,
Hmm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
mine is like a bomber jacket. That I
Hmm.
mean that's the style. And so what I did is I thought, you know what, I'm going to I did a little research on God, what's the soap called? I soaped it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
The
know,
lanolin or whatever.
yeah, the waterproofing. I waterproofed it with the. I bought a bar. It's like $10 online, and I sit in front of the TV, and I got a hair dryer as hot as I can get it, and I just
Hmm.
covered that thing, and it really uh, it darkened it up, and it kind of made it smooth, and it smelled great. I wore it
Hmm.
last night, and I noticed that it didn't smell as good as it did a couple of years ago, so I may need to redo it. But I realized this jacket is really nice,
Hmm.
and I know I didn't pay that much because I was pretty poor when I bought it. I mean, it was an extravagant purchase, but anyway, to
That
answer your question, yes, I remember C.R. Anthony.
yeah. C.R. Anthony's. I had some wacky experiences there. I had some even wackier experiences next door at the Shifts Shoes, SCHIFF Shifts. Yeah, oh man,
Where was that at?
that was right next door to CR Anthony's. That's where I
Well, where was the CR Anthony's?
CR Anthony's on 44th and Penn.
Okay.
Right across the
I
street
know
from
it.
the huge Sears. You
Oh,
you
no,
don't
no,
you
no.
don't know my
That's
side of town as well as
no, no,
of
no. The
course
Sears is
I
at
grew up
Western.
here. I'm acting
The
like
Sears,
everybody ought to know that.
the Sears is at Western, 44th and Western.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So
Because it's next to the Walmart. Because my cousin lives right by there.
Okay, well that's it. Yeah, there used to be a CR Anthony's right there at 44th and Western. As a matter of fact,
Across from the hospital.
at the TG and Y
Yeah.
at down from it. I made a quick trip. I heard about it. It was going to be happening, so I walked in, and there's this promotional, autograph signing thing. I don't know how much he was charging or anything, but it was Robin, Burt Ward, at the
My
height
gosh.
of Batmania, was signing autographs. Well, I think this is a fairly apocryphal anecdote told from this time in this incident, but I wasn't there for it. I just heard about it. Someone stole his mask right off his head. So he came to Oklahoma just to be basically assaulted. but I always thought it was kind of it made it memorable, didn't it? So
Yeah, Robin will never forget that.
Yeah, he'll never forget that.
I read, even though I can't stand them, I read. Oh God, what's the guy that played Batman?
West.
Adam West.
Mm-hmm.
I read Adam West's book, and he had some stuff in there that if you read it, you go, oh my gosh. But he talked about when Batman had Green Hornet and Kato on there, Robin and Kato were supposed to fight, and so they were kind of there warming up, and Burt Ward saw Bruce Lee and about ran out of the room, apparently.
Well, sure. You seen those kicks being shot out from your hip, but stopping about an inch from your mouth. Yeah, you say, I don't want to do that. I'm an actor.
Well,
or I have been for the past 6 months anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was just like apprehension that's like, does he know this is fake?
Yeah. Does he know this is for
laughs, giggles? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing about people that train in something. If you're a guy that does judo or something, your every day is to grab somebody and just toss them like they're trash, and everybody's perfectly okay with it. You get a hold of somebody that's never encountered that sort of physical level of business going on. It's like, what the hell are you thinking? You don't just grab me. Just because I'll survive it doesn't mean you've got license to pull it off like that. This is a bad drawing. I don't even want to see that replay itself. I don't know what I'm doing. I guess I'm warming up. How long have we been on? I may get a good drawing done yet.
So so how old were you when you worked at Anthony's? So I'm interested.
I was in high school.
So
yeah.
So I was going to share that because I love this book, Ellis. I've told you this multiple times.
Oh, I want to share some books too. Go ahead. And,
this is the sketchbook that Ellis put out. This was from when you were in games, right?
Yeah, that was pretty late in the career. I was working for most of those doodles. Probably were produced in probably only about 20 years ago. Probably only 20 years ago.
2007 is the date on the book.
There you go.
But
2007. They would have been more like 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, you were working in games at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this was stuff you did While you were working in games.
And I called it idle hands because typically I'm one of those guys that was in Japan, they would call him a window man. Have you ever heard of that term?
No, a window man. Does that mean you're a pain?
He's a guy that there's so much loyalty among the Japanese that even when a guy is pretty much useless, they'll give him some job by the window. And it's like everybody just kind of ignores him for the entirety of the rest of his career. And they just call him the window man. You know, he's over there.
There he is.
There he is. Good to see you. You know,
so
the rest of us are going out for drinks. Too bad you don't belong to our little clique anymore.
Oh.
You can just head home now. Bye-bye.
So that's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. But I was a window man almost.
Work.
Yeah. I mean, well, no. I was first to go in a couple of instances where. You just have to be good at some of this stuff. I wasn't good at it when you're doing level design and stuff like that. Just got a little too techy for me.
So you were at CR Anthony's, and you were then was it shoes, and then what grade in school? Were you in school or college?
I was 18 at CR Anthony's, and I went to I worked at Brahms. Nobody wants to know anything about Brahms or anything.
Well, I want to get it in context.
Yeah.
Well, we'll work up to art stuff.
Well, okay. The moment I got out of college, I got a job, which, you know, the age you get out of college, if you go straight from high school, I would have been 22, thereabouts. I got a job based on a job fair with the guy that hired me, came to the job fair, and I may have actually been introduced to him while there. A guy named Duncan was the head of the commercial art department at what was Central State University at the time.
Okay.
He was Dr. Duncan. He was a doctor. I have to tell you a story about Duncan. You know, in terms of people that want to do things that they have dreams for, he wanted to be a syndicated comic book artist. So he paid to put his syndicated comic strip into the Daily Oklahoman. So it was like advertising space. It was like advertising space. He wanted to, you know, he was, you know, trying to promote himself into being something he wasn't. But you have to admire that. I mean, he was.
No! I think that's awesome.
He was striving. You know.
Yeah,
Dr. Duncan. I'm trying to think of what his whole name was.
People waste their money, you know, buying boats and crap like that. Why not use your money for something? If you have a dream, man.
Yeah.
You know.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, people always get hung up, and I run into this in comics where people get hung up. They're like, well, I've never drawn a comic, and I have no experience, but man, I'm not going to work for anybody unless they'll pay me X amount.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
no.
Man,
that's opposite of the Adam Carolla way. It's like, get in there and work for nothing for a while, you know, and get around a whole bunch of stuff. Imagine being around certain personalities at certain times, you know.
My gosh.
You know, that's where you go to school for, is to get all networked, you know.
My secret fantasy is that one day they'll invent a time machine and I can go back to like late 60s, early 70s Marvel Comics, and I'll be good enough to break in, and I'll be working for, you know, $40 a page, $30 a page, or whatever. But I'll be like one of those guys that, not a Romita or a Kirby or a Byrne or anything, but just like, I was drawing Iron Man for a while or whatever, you know, just that. But to me, that, you know, it's like, just there's something cool about being in that spot, even if it's not the spot where you're making money, because before royalties, nobody made money in comics. You know. We'll see you,
Wim. Take it easy. So he was making a point of saying goodbye, so I want to say goodbye.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you met the guy that was
that hired me. His name was Cliff Hansen. He was the founder as well as having this little studio. I think he just called it Yellow Pages or something like that. No, he called it Cliff Hansen Studio. And he did the Yellow Pages. That was his big account. And he did it for, I think, just about every county that put out a Yellow Pages for the phone company. And so it was, it was a thriving concern. We were busy every day, but never really super stressful until just a few times a year. And that's where I was at when I did called Richard Corbin and went to visit him up in Kansas City, Missouri, because Mike was going to visit people in Kansas City, Missouri. And I went along and I had cold called Corbin, got up there, and every page from Den was pinned up on the wall, or probably not pinned, probably taped up. The first incidents, and of course it was all in black and white, and I had no idea that it ought to be in color. But he told me it was headed for Metal Hurlant, which I'd never heard of, and he explained how it was going to be. Because I asked him about his color, he said this will all be in color. And then he explained his process to me, and so I've tried to do that little video on it.
Okay, I need to watch that video. So
yeah, need to watch that.
You had it from his own mouth how he was doing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I did it.
Deconstruct it like these guys.
Yeah, they're trying to look at that book, which is totally throwing them off. They're looking at that unicorn picture and saying, yeah, look how incredible that color is. It's just real mediocre color. And it's like, no, that's not Corbin's color there. And that's color over line art. And I don't know what you guys are. But anyway, so I went to the point of trying to correct that impression on at least what I knew about his color.
Did you tag him in your tags?
I don't know how to tag him. I don't know what would. Oh, but I did notice that I've got about 5 times as many views for that. Maybe it has somehow gone over to Kayfabe, cartoonist Kayfabe.
Yeah, I think. Well, you can tag them if you go in there into your videos. Go like.
I did that.
If you go to the bottom where you put the description in, if you go to the bottom.
How about that? I do know how to do that. Yeah, sure. Okay. I know how to do that. Yeah.
Okay. There you go then. So you were working at the Yellow Pages, or working not at the Yellow Pages, but putting together the Yellow Pages.
It was like being a DOD employee or something. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Did you do spot illustrations, or were you doing just layouts?
Well, of course, the fun part is doing spot illustrations. Typically, it just involved updating whatever they had, and that would involve taking photos and blowing them up and cleaning them up, which became kind of like, with repeatiographs. And typically, that was like, in some cases, was almost like that Roman coin that evolves and becomes mushier and mushier in terms of like iterations of it. We did some kind of sad stuff like that. But usually, though, it was better to, just start over and fresh and do new line drawings, which was fun. We did it on vellum, and it taught me kind of a control of kind of inking, and it gave me some notions about, spotting blacks and such as that.
So that's kind of what I did when I first started at the place where I work. But instead of drawing Yellow Page ads, we were drawing a lot of medals, like medallions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some school would call up and they would say, "We want a medallion for the Norman Tigers graduation." Mm-hmm. And so they'd send their logo, and typically they'd send like a business card. They'd send a business card, and we'd blow it up to a decent size, and then we'd kind of trace it off and redraw it, I really enjoyed that. It was, I didn't make it, I didn't make any money, but it was fun. And when I was in school, there was a guy that that one of my instructors, that he was from Chicago, and in Chicago, he worked at like an illustration studio. And it's like people that needed illustrations for whatever, they would call them up and they'd say, "Well, I need a drawing of a donkey or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
They'd say, "Oh, okay, here's, we'll draw you a donkey," and it'll be, then they'd work out a cost and everything. And to me, that just sounded cool. Just, every day doing something a little bit different. What are you going to
Mm-hmm.
draw? Um, that to me, that sounded cool. Unfortunately, like, I used to do, storyboards for I did storyboards for some local, commercial people, advertising places. And a few years ago, I say a few years ago, it's probably 15 or 20 years ago, there was somehow some group got hold of me and they were like, "Oh, we're having a kind of a mixer for all these people that work in advertising." And so I brought my sketchbook and not my sketchbook, my portfolio with and I showed it to these people. And to a man, they were like, "Well, this stuff is great. We love it, but there's never any money or time in our budget to do this. So if we need something like this, we just Google it and steal like an appropriate photo and use that, and we'll tell them,
Mm-hmm.
well, we don't need this. Well, it's like this, but imagine with this or whatever, they'll
Right.
Photoshop it to look appropriate." And I was like, okay, I'm not getting any more storyboard gigs because advertisers, at least around here, don't use them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but okay, so you worked at which by the way, my aunt used to work for the phone company, and I'd worked at my current job for a couple of years, and she contacted me and she said, "Oh, AT&T is looking for artists
Mm-hmm.
and to work on their phone books." And I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I would have went. And the
Well,
answer is I probably would have
the
lost my
job.
job.
Well,
My job
exactly. The
would have been
job wouldn't have lasted nearly as long.
no, yeah.
And so from there, I went from Cliff's work, and Cliff had a great morgue in the back. He had a bunch of row of books that he'd had over the years. And the first time I saw Loomis's Fun with a Pencil, and
Oh yeah.
the guy was and he started the Highlanders. If you've ever seen the anybody with a bagpipe band playing at an
Oh
event, and it was the Highlanders, that Cliff Hansen started that, and he was
oh
also a
yeah.
supplier. He
For
was a
bagpipes.
supplier for bagpipe parts. Yeah, he would get
Oh,
orders from.
so
That was another one of his businesses. You talk about wimps like me that always think they wanted to be in business for themselves. Cliff probably had 5 businesses. He could probably write off on his taxes and everything. And one of them was a laminating business, and he just had a whole bunch of stuff that he could be doing, and bringing a little money in. But of course, he's also a retired colonel from the World War II era.
oh.
Era he was in the Italian theater of things. I think he was involved in uh, artillery something or other. He was an artillery lieutenant colonel.
The problem
And yeah, go ahead.
well, the problem is I don't know if someone could live like that nowadays.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He probably had a little bit of a
I
pension,
mean,
and that got him going. And then he just his and then his Scottish ancestry kicked in, and he probably didn't waste any money. And go ahead and
my
do
my
some
question
racist
is,
stuff.
well, the
Go ahead.
thing is, for being a bagpipe supplier, is a lot of crimes to answer for.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It's like
uh,
our favorite joke. Me and Mike's favorite joke was the Warner Brothers joke, where the you know music soothes the savage beast, and then when the Tasmanian devil, he could be soothed by everything, but if you tried to use bagpipes on him, he'd rip them out of your hands and stomp up and down on them, and it'd
yeah,
drive him even great into a greater homicidal rage.
yeah.
And that was a great sight gag of how much bagpipes
Norm.
are not music. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's like squeezing a cat. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But
so you
they're
yeah.
for installing fear.
Oh yeah,
You're supposed to come over the hill while you're playing those, and it's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, the demons are loose on us.
Somebody that
So you
considers
worked
that.
at the. So how
Yeah,
long did you work at the phone? Was that?
I
So that
worked
was
there
straight.
probably 4 or 5 years. It was kind of fun, like you say. It was kind of,
Oh, that job sounds amazingly fun.
yeah, yeah.
If I could find a job like that now, I mean, where they just I mean, mine is kind of like that, to be honest. But I'm
Hmm.
just
Yeah, if you were still doing it, if you were still doing the
if
art.
I still do well, yeah. Well, what's funny is people have come to me and said, "Oh, you should come work with us." People that I know, and I've gone to, like, we have a friend that works for a place that does animation. I don't want to say his name, but they do animation, but it's like training videos. And I go and he's like, you should come. You should come here and check this out. Super nice guy, good friend of mine, but I go watch him and there's no drawing. I mean, he gets, it's like anything good that comes in, the seniority people grab it,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's kind of one of those, you're making a bunch of text move around and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, you're
at
doing
least at
you're
my
doing
work,
motion graphics. Yeah, that'd be
right.
your, yeah.
And at least at my job, I do get to draw stuff quite a bit. In fact, what's happened to me is because I'm not in the day-to-day fray. So, in fact, this is a new thing that's going to happen for me. So I'm okay. So I'm not in the day-to-day fray as much. I'm more like managing artist. So I can pick and choose if there's something that comes through and like they have trouble with it. Maybe they can't get it's like a figure or something.
Hmm.
Then they'll give it to me and go, "Hey, can you help me with this? This police officer looks a little funny." And I'll pull
Hmm.
out a piece of paper and I'll whip out a quick drawing and I'll say, "Do it something like this."
Hmm.
And so that's kind of fun.
Hmm.
I am getting one of my sculptors is retiring, and one of the things that he does is we do these. So like like the Olympic torch, right? The
Hmm.
Olympic torch. Well, for Special Olympics, who's a big customer of ours, they do like commemorative torches for all these runs. The law enforcement people in different areas, different regions will have runs, and it's for charity. Well, they'll carry a torch. Well, they sell them because what they do is they're usually made of resin, and it has all this stuff around. It'll have some kind of design to it. And one of my artists or one of my sculptors, he makes them, and he'll sculpt them. But sometimes they don't want a sculpted one. They want one that's just got a drawing on it, and it's laser engraved on there. They don't want to pay for this full-on sculpted one. And I mean,
Hmm.
he's doing one now, Ellis. It's for Orlando, and they're big. They're about this tall, probably
Hmm.
14 inches tall.
Yeah.
And he has sculpted a roller coaster going like in a spiral, and it's on this, and it's round on this. He's doing it in clay on this acrylic um, torch mock-up. He sculpted all this clay out, and it's a roller coaster going around, and it's got crazy animals on it and stuff. And when he gets done, they're going to cast it. They're going to make a mold of it and cast them, and then they sell them, and they're $150 a piece or whatever. Anyway, he's getting ready to retire. I'm going to do now. Some of them he does just have a drawing, and he'll get a piece of paper out, and he'll sit there and do this drawing, and and people love it. They get him and
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh my gosh!" And they'll want photos of the process, and they'll want to see his sketches and all this. They'll use sketches in the material to try and sell it. And in fact, we're supposed to shoot a video, him and I, because I'm going to be the new guy drawing these, and there's going to be
Hmm.
almost like a, no pun intended, kind of passing of the torch.
Hmm.
Okay, he's going to do these. This is the only occasion I would be considered the new guy. This is the new guy. He's going to be doing these, and so I do get to draw some stuff, and I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love, making marks on paper and drawing. And okay, so you left the Yellow Pages company,
Hmm. and went from there to the Daily Oklahoman as a layout artist. Was there for 2 years. Got disgusted with it, and part of it was just you could call it mental
Vanity.
breakdown in terms of like just not having had office politics in my life before. And I never was good at them ever again, but it was just based on my personality, just not being up for it. Never has been up for
No, you're not.
the,
You're
the
no, no, no. You're not
political
that.
aspect of that. Any see, we had like 3 employees, and so I went from that into the newspaper business with about 20 other people doing the same sort of jobs, and I just wasn't prepared for that, and so I quit thinking I've got to get out and get physical. And so I quit and became an elevator man, or a guy doing construction on elevators, and that's hard to get into. And my dad got me into it because my dad was basically a god among men when it came to the elevator business. And anything that Dad wanted, he could make happen just by by letting it know that Fred Goodson could use a favor here, and he got both me and my brother into it. And then it wasn't long before. What's that?
What year? Give me a timeline, a year on some of this.
Well, since I went to San Diego in '85, late '85, but before then I went to Dallas because that's where I was bound to next, and then I spent all of '85 there. So anyway, while I was in, and so '84 would have been the elevator year. I don't know if I surely didn't spend 2 years in the elevator trade because it was tough. But we built a couple of elevators while I was there. I worked for U.S. Elevators, and I built hydro elevators, which are different than the cable ones, even though I got out for servicing on some pretty big elevators stuff. So running up and down and watching those counterweights go by at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun. But it's like certain death awaits if you do something wrong, man.
Anything, but certainly construction
just stepping off into the shaft is one good way to die.
Yeah.
So that, and so then next it was like I worked actually during that time. I wrangled some freelance by going to a con from Dean Mullaney and Cat Ironwood for the what do they call that? It was the backup feature in Miss Tree's Thrilling Adventures, and it was called The Scythe, and it just totally sucked. And when they tell you, you should know that if you do some artwork and you aren't kind of like really ready to do it, you might regret it later.
Oh yeah.
So The Scythe is my regret art, and so but that series, Miss Tree's Thrilling Adventures, that was written by, of course, that guy that wrote
Max Allen Collins, and he's really well thought of, and that series, I believe, is pretty well thought of. So it was high profile enough, and of course during that time would have been the big explosion of indie comics, So if I was up for it, I was ready to go for a ride, but I guess I wasn't up for it. I went to Dallas with a girlfriend because she was headed for Dallas. And then by golly, she was headed for San Diego next. And I said, no, wait a second. No, I'm underestimating myself. She followed me to Dallas, and then I followed her to San Diego. And then in San Diego, I got more of what artwork had become that was like that job I had, which was working for the DOD. I got a job on North Island doing artwork for
helicopter pilots, basically chalk talks, you know, where they get up in front of their other fellow pilots and they talk about how to survive if your helicopter crashes, and you do the artwork for that event, you know. And that was cool, but it paid miserable. So I got a call from a guy. Oh no, and from there I went to another job. Wait a second. Yeah. Well, I got another DOD kind of job that was on Miramar that paid more for the Top Gun.
Yeah, I was gonna say you worked for Top Gun.
That was cool because I got to do caricatures because all those guys have a call sign.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be and I always, you know, the character of these guys is such that if you wanted they all get nicknames and that's their call sign, but you can't give yourself your own nickname. That's verboten. You know, you can't decide you're super stud or something like that. You know, your fellow guys have to give you some denigrating nickname. For instance, this one guy wanted to be called Lightning, so he became Bug, which I always thought was a great denigration of Lightning, was wanting to be called that, and his buddies say, "Okay, now you're Bug."
Yeah, good luck with that nickname. Good luck with picking your own nickname.
Yeah, pick your own nickname next time. So I did that for a while. And then because this one guy that I was working with could sense I was kind of like, you know, I wasn't as into, oh man, that guy was he was into fighter pilots and all that. And he was the head of them. He was my boss. He knew that I wasn't as into it. It was just a job to me. And he'd hired me, with me, of course, misrepresenting myself the way you do when you're getting hired for a job. I said, "Oh, this is going to be great." Well, you know, I obviously didn't think it was all that great. It was just something to do, you know.
Yeah.
And he linked me to video games. He had a job out.
Oh, really?
He knew this guy that was calling him for talents he might know about, and says, "I might have one right here that I can get rid of. How about that?" And so he linked me to Leland Corporation out in Simi Valley, which was had mainly been doing stuff for pinball games mainly, Williams and all that, but they were into video games right as they were always just arcade games. There wasn't even such a thing as a, you know, there was like Coleco and stuff like that. You know,
right? Yeah, the home market hadn't taken.
The home market hadn't blown up, and you could make millions off those arcade games back then. If you had a big hit as an arcade game, it was like sold for $2,000 a unit, and you know, at that point, if you get 10,000 times 2,000, you're rolling in it. So that was it. So I got to go to a few conventions in Vegas and stuff like that. And then from there, it was Blue Sky. I met Doug Tenaple at Blue Sky, which is where we did, how many games did I work on? I worked on, not Blade Runner, but what was the other thing that was Cyberpunk? I can't think of it. It'll come to me.
What system?
It's another bad drawing. Oh, well. We'll watch them build themselves. And then we worked on Jurassic Park and I guess Ren and Stimpy. I was there when the drama occurred that where all of us were expecting big things to come about when Blue Sky was bought by Sony. And we just had the regular jobs that we had before. And so that this happens typically on these game companies. There was a whole bunch of breakouts where all these guys saying, "Well, we're headed out," and we lost Doug. He went to Shiny, where he experienced it again, he got the shiny, and his game was the one I didn't realize until he told me the whole story, just how hard he had to pitch Earthworm Jim. It wasn't
Oh yeah.
it wasn't a done deal. People weren't just like automatically in love with it. He had to sell these guys that that's what they wanted to do was the Earthworm Jim.
So
And
I played Earthworm Jim as not a kid, as a young adult. I was working at the time. I was out of school, and I remember what I remember about Earthworm Jim is it was like his name was all over that. He was on and I was like, who is this guy? And the implication was that you were supposed to know who he was.
yeah. Well,
which
no.
didn't.
Doug was given lots of credit, but I tell you what, it didn't amount to lots of money because a lot of the licensing and all that stuff. The only way he made his money on it was just stuff for like toys and stuff like. No, well, not even the toys. I don't think he made any money for toys. It was only later that he got. I forget the main way Doug cashes in on Earthworm Jim is just being known as the guy who came up with Earthworm Jim. And
well, it's funny because
very valuable because at this point, he got to meet Steven Spielberg and start the Neighborhood, which is where I became an employee of Doug at the Neighborhood. After they had already done the good game, they did the Neighborhood, which is a PC game, and then I got on board for. I think it was quite a while becoming a PlayStation game.
No, Claymation.
Oh yeah, it was Claymation. Yeah,
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
Game. Well, I remember
they had great
Jim.
puzzles. Those guys, that was their masterpiece. Was the first Neighborhood game.
Were you involved in? Sorry about that. I had to pull one of my headphones out. My ear itched. Were you involved in? Oh God, what is the name of that? Abe's Odyssey? Is that a game?
No, but that was another great little game
like a puzzle game.
Yeah. I did meet a guy that did work on Abe's Odyssey, but later.
Oh, gotcha.
When I worked at Heavy Iron, and from the Neighborhood, I went to a couple of guys, broke out amicably. We weren't breaking out saying we hate you, Doug, or anything. Doug wanted out of games. It was it's tough to be in games. It's tough to figure out where the pay is going to come, and Doug was going to be faced with payroll he couldn't make. We needed somebody that was going to want to stay in games, that was going to find our next paycheck. So me and about four of the guys that were there formed Monkeytropolis. And that lasted for a year or so. We found money from people that wanted to do a snowboarding game, and later on we pitched a tornado chaser game, which had we had some pretty genius effects for the time in our tornado chaser game. It was particle based, which at the time was kind of unheard of, and it was kind of groovy. We had some geniuses working for us, and that was kind of fun. But that went away kind of calamitously, and the next job was way out. I had to move for it and commuted for ages, super long distances to go from Orange County to Simi Valley. And anybody that knows that area, that's a pretty good commute. And of course, I had to move to Simi Valley eventually. And I was living in I was actually working in Moore Park for the little studio then. And that's where most of Idle Hands was done. And that little, and that's also where I was acquainted with a guy named Jeff. Oh, what's his last name? Filipino guy, big guy. I mean, I hope he's all right. He's probably vaccinated because, man, you talk about comorbidities. Old Jeff sure was big.
Oh yeah.
But he introduced me to the whole crowd. And, I already knew about the Riley method because I knew, because that's what we talked about. I talked to him about my days where I'd taken a few of those Jeff Watts classes down in San Diego. And he
Oh
said,
yeah.
"Oh, we're right over here. This the school that started Jeff Watts, the Thousand Oaks School over here." So I said, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." So I learned everything I knew about painting, and I refined. I got to work with the great artist Glenn Orbick.
Oh yeah.
I got to take him for quick sketch. I got a lifetime's worth of great little art experiences out of just being a friend of Jeff and him dragging me into that, having to commute to go over to Thousand Oaks for those courses.
Well, that's cool.
So that was cool. And then after that, the last stop, heavy iron. And after I got laid off from that, there was, I mean, I worked for quite a while. I worked on Up and, the Pixar
Yeah.
licensed games.
Yeah.
And again, I was the window man, kind of to an extent. I was kind of like, wasn't as good as I probably could have been. And, but I did there. I learned pretty good. I got pretty good at 3D. And I was a pretty good modeler at the time. I couldn't.
What program?
Maya.
Oh, Maya.
And before that, for a little bit of the neighborhood, I'd learned. That became my tool. I became 3D Max and Maya. Of course, all that merged later.
Yeah. We use ZBrush at work. We use it
sure.
mostly. Yeah, we use Rhino a little bit. I say we.
Blender's free. I mean, it's like,
Oh yeah.
it'll do just about anything nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, that's it.
And that's time. That's so. So Ellis's next job was at Avis.
Yeah, Avis. Yeah,
Well,
if I was ever mighty, I sure took a fall. Yep.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the sad thing about that is, I mean, to me, I mean, obviously everybody talks about working in games, but I mean, to me, the cool job was probably like the early stuff that's now gone.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the deal I should have transitioned to. Is you could have gone back and done phone app artwork that would have been just like the old Genesis artwork, and I should have done that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, but I'm talking about the Yellow Pages stuff. The Spot illustrate. I mean, to me, like I said, if I had a time machine, go back and do all that stuff by hand. I mean, to me, working in Marvel in the 70s, even knowing like, well, you're not gonna make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That would be okay to me because it's just so,
Oh, look at that! John was actually present for that. Said the guy that asked for the.
Oh, that's good.
That is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. What's funny is like people, when you talk to people, they're always like, "Oh man, I want to work in video games." But when you talk to somebody that works in video games, I don't know.
No, it's like everything. It's like poor old Ethan at the Bee, and I've got to watch it because I assume it's kind of hard to take. His interview with Musk, it sounds like that was one of his worst times he's ever experienced because he's worried about it's like a comedian getting up and dying, apparently. He feels like he did
Oh
just a
yeah.
horrible job. And that's the sort of thing that is tough. That's the sort of thing that I was, always battling myself and my personality is that, I'm always way too conscious of stuff.
Well, I think that's part of being an artist, and
Oh
that's one
yeah.
of the challenges of being an artist is getting past your own,
Self. Yeah,
psyche.
your ego.
Yeah.
Oh, egos in games too. Oh man, you want to talk about
Well,
some horrific stuff. Egos in games can be amazing, even among friends. It's like and if
well, I
you are
just
if you've got nothing like a friendship with the person you've got your ego issues with, it's bad.
I just think that working in a field like games or animation or something like that, or now comics, where people are like, there's always people that's like their dream job, and so you're working, and there's always like this influx of people that's what they want to do, and just this, you know. And I mean, to me, it'd be better to have a job somewhere, where maybe there wasn't like it wouldn't have to be glamorous as long as it was like entertaining.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's,
yeah,
I guess that's what I'm
and
saying.
it's obvious Ethan loved the bee. I mean, what could be better for a guy that he's like Doug? Doug, moved close to Hollywood, up in the hills of the Armenian that area above uh, Cartoon Central. I forget what it's called. It's Glendale. Glendale. Yeah,
Oh
he's
yeah.
up there in Glendale in a really nice house. But he was there mainly so he could, instead of the horrific traffic, so he could
Oh yeah.
get down there and pitch cartoon channels and pitch Hollywood stuff. Here we go. I remember Doug T quoting you when he said, "You get on top of that elevator and you own that thing." Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got your little controller up there. You switch it into it's express mode, or I think that's what it was called. And yeah, you can run it at your speed, and and you can have.
So I got to tell a funny elevator story about you and me.
Mhm.
Because Ellis and we haven't done it in a while because of the pandemic, but occasionally we'll go downtown Oklahoma City and hang out. We live on opposite sides of Oklahoma City. My wife works downtown, and so there used to be an old building. I think it's one of the oldest buildings in Oklahoma City, and at one point it was one of the tallest. And it's probably what do you think the First National is? Is it 30 stories?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Something like that, between 20 and 30 probably.
Hmm.
So not tall in terms of like Manhattan, but pretty tall. In Oklahoma City, that's one of the taller buildings,
Hmm.
certainly. Anyway, but it's an old building. It's built like in the 30s. It has at the top, it has a spire similar to the Empire State Building. And the idea was that they would moor dirigibles to it, just like they were thinking they'd do with the Empire State Building. But anyway,
Hmm.
the building, my friend worked there for a while. It was an office building, and it had a bank. And at
Yeah.
one point, it started to become decrepit, and you could still go in it, and it had a huge bank lobby you could go into
Yeah, that was a
that was
great
all
building.
marble and empty. And Ellis and I would go in there. And so one time we got on the elevator, and this was, and my friend, his company had moved out because the elevator was broke down. They were on like the 23rd floor, and the elevator was broke down, and the managers were like, we don't know when we're going to be able to fix this. And they were having to go up and down stairs because it had, the way it was built, you had to go one up one elevator for one side or one on the other. So it had multiples on each side, but the whole side was out where he was at. But anyway, so Ellis and I get in the elevator, and we go up to this thing, and we're going to go up on these abandoned floors, basically, and
Hmm.
look around. And we get in the elevator, and we go up, and at one point it stopped. And I looked at Ellis and I said, well, I'd be worried if I wasn't with you, but I know you can fix it. And you were like, I know.
No, they can be very hard to get out of. I mean, they're latched from the other side, from the shaft side. But
Oh
we might have got
God.
lucky. We could have figured out where the door was and pried our way out, maybe. But it would have been tough. They're not meant to
You know,
got out of.
yeah. Well, you know what that building has that I didn't know about at the time, but I found out later. It has an internal fire escape that's a slide.
Oh
So in the
yeah, yeah,
corner,
yeah.
it has a spiral slide that goes all the way down.
Wouldn't that be
And
groovy? Yeah, yeah. I think I'd heard about that by being in the elevator. I had people talking about that, saying they wanted to do it. I forget if I remember anybody. Probably the one guy that did do it was a guy named PJ, I think.
the
PJ was
guy,
interesting. He was my dad's best friend, even though they were like 20 years difference in age. He absolutely loved PJ because PJ is the guy that comes along and he's just a Lego block to you. The chemistry is there, and he wanted my dad to mentor him, and Dad loved mentoring him. He became more like a brother to him. And PJ was, how we are here in Oklahoma when it's cold. We go start our car so it's warmed up by the time we get out to it.
yeah.
Well, PJ had a really nice tricked out, a truck with, a lot of work tools in it and all that, and a lot of other extras to this truck. Well, someone saw his truck out idling out in front of the shop and decided to steal it. And so PJ was having none of that. He was very much an alpha guy, and he came out there and jumped on it. It had a little running board on it anyway. He jumped on it, but this guy running from him, he ran over a curb or whatever, and PJ came loose, and the landing killed him.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, it was just an awful way to go for a young man like that. And
That was pretty tough on your dad
oh,
too.
it was very tough on Dad. He just couldn't believe that PJ's here one day and gone the next. So, well, what brought that up? Why did I bring it up? I don't know. I have no idea.
We were talking about elevators.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but something else specifically brought it up. I thought, oh well, I'll review our
because
show.
we were talking about going down the spiral.
Oh yeah, and PJ was probably the guy that did it, and so I wanted to talk about PJ. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Michelle, my wife is an electrical engineer, and so I went to one of her Christmas luncheons or Christmas parties a few years ago, and one of the guys that works with her, he used to work for an engineering office that was in that building, and he said they were working late one night and they went down that elevator. I
Uh-huh.
probably would have been in the 70s, but
Went down the slide.
they went down the slide. Yeah, they were
Oh,
working real late, so they would, and it's one of those engineering places. Sometimes they'll work late, and apparently they were getting kind of a little stir crazy,
yeah.
and so they were racing to go the fastest down the slide. And this guy told me it was cool, and I think they were doing it on like a burlap sack or something.
Yeah.
He said it was really cool, but he said the problem was you'd be going along and it was lit, but you go along and all of a sudden there'd be a stretch where there'd be no lights. So you're
Yeah.
pitch black all of a sudden, you know.
Be a fun house, a dark ride.
Yeah. The building across the street to the north has one also, supposedly. I don't know what the name. It's more traditional looking building, kind of a squarish building, but
Mhm.
anyway. Okay, Ellis, we're way past time.
Yeah, we are pretty well past it.
But
Okay, yeah. Here's all the stuff I didn't talk about today. I had it written down. The Royal Tenenbaums,
I haven't seen it.
Arcane,
I don't know what that is.
Blame, which is actually pronounced Blam, the manga thing.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And here's this book. See this book? It's written by John Byrne,
What is it?
writing
Oh.
comedy, but it's a
different John Byrne.
different John Byrne. And here's the guy, the Biomega. The artist is Tsutomu Nihei.
I have the first issue of Biomega, or the first trade of Biomega.
Cool. So you know what I'm talking about. He's
Yeah, I
good.
know what you're talking about. Yeah, a very, yeah. Oh, yeah, I got that book. I own that book.
And I saw Rumblefish recently, and I saw Most Dangerous Game, and it's colorized.
Oh,
And I thought to myself, you know, uh, it should be treated like Rumblefish. They should just colorize one part of it, and it should only be Fay Ray because she's so gloriously beautiful. And then I thought about
yeah.
how awful it is to colorize King Kong, which they have done. I've never watched it, but I thought
Ooh.
if they're going to colorize it, wow, wouldn't that be something if you only colorize like Rumblefish? If you only colorize Fay Ray, that would be something. That might work. Might work
That
for
might
me.
work.
Yeah.
That might work. I've
Okay,
been
so
watching.
that's all the stuff, and so I ran through all the stuff I was going to.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Well, I wasn't going to talk about this, but since we talked about Ellis's time in video games, you should seek out a copy of Idle Hands. It's
Yeah,
Ellis's sketchbook. Is it on Amazon, Ellis,
yeah,
or
it
is it
is on
only on
Amazon
Lulu?
and in a couple of different forms. Heck, it may almost be free on in the Kindle
I think
version.
you can download it, the digital copy, for free on Lulu.
Oh, that
But
may be right. Yeah.
pick up a print copy. I think I've bought a couple from you over the years. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um,
Or yeah,
and
I should go into business mail ordering them signed, I guess.
You should. I don't
Yeah.
think this. I don't think mine's signed. I don't think
Probably,
that. I think I
probably
have a
not.
signed one somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ellis is not vain enough. He'll put his E on there.
Yeah. My super
Yeah,
signature. Well, Scott, I'm going to
exactly.
let you go. I'm sure you're starting to drag at this point. I know I
I need to
am.
go get some coffee. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Hey, thanks everybody for joining
Yeah.
us
Thanks
tonight.
for everybody dropping in.
Yep.
I wonder if we answered Xander Rant's question of
Oh,
have you
about
heard about all the
the.
drama? I'm not sure we actually discussed the drama he was referring to.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay.
If we didn't reply in the comments, Xander, if you come back,
Yeah.
I think didn't Xander have to leave?
No, he just disappeared.
Oh, okay. Off into the night.
Okay. This is the end.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.